Hey there, my best of Trekkers! Today's block contains a number of episodes that give main cast members a chance to do something a little different for an episode, and show off their acting range. This is Best of Trek, Worst of Trek. I'm your host, Dustin Wing. Being Persecuted at 275, Witch Hunt, or Body and Soul. As Kim, Seven, and the Doctor do a science mission in the Delta Flyer, we see why Kim hasn't gotten a promotion in 7 years, as they're boarded and the Doctor is nearly lost. Thankfully, Seven is able to hide his program in her Borg circuitry, and keep him safe against these fanatics that don't allow holograms in their space, since a revolt. They're locked up and Jeri Ryan gets to do her maybe most interesting acting in the run of Voyager, playing the Doctor in her body. Bob Picardo recorded tapes of how he would move and deliver these scenes for Jeri to watch, and she really does a great job of selling that she's the Doctor. And the Doctor himself gets to experience things that he can't as a hologram, and gets a little carried away in Seven's body, eating and drinking just a lot too much. He manages to use Seven's feminine wiles, though, to nearly escape, but at least buy enough time for Voyager to show up and both save them, and give the Doctor a chance to prove to this group that not all holos are against them. Meanwhile, Tuvok's dealing with his 7-year itch, and Tom helps him out with a holo of his wife that he can't use without offending this race. Oh, Tuvok. Poor Tuvok. Don't worry, Neelix will cheer you up, dude. Confronting your possible future at 274. Feedback loop. Or E squared. We're dropped into a weird sequence with an old AF T'Pol, and after skipping that oh-so-long road, the present T'Pol is not doing so well, coming down off her Trellium addiction. Then another Enterprise comes out of nowhere, culminating in a conversation of, "Hey dude, we're your kids," and Archer's like, "You're full of shit." Apparently, the first time they went through this corridor in space, a battle forced the crew 100 years into the past, and their descendants have been wandering the expanse ever since. This one is a bit of interesting character development for T'Pol, but ultimately comes to an anticlimax when Enterprise breaks the causality loop and makes it through the subspace corridor to make the rendezvous with Degra with time to spare. It's a really moving plot, but the chicken and the egg nature of it leaves me with way more questions than answers at the end of the day. Taking a deep dive into Dax at 273. Inner Exploration. Or Facets. As Jadzia undergoes a Trill ritual to explore all the past hosts of the Dax symbiont, our main regulars get to show us some of their acting range, as the consciousness of past hosts are transferred one at a time for a few hours. Quark gets to play his first of 2 female-centered roles in DS9, and generally all of Dax's past lives are pretty interesting. Alexander Siddig feels more at home in his brief role here than as Bashir for the first season and a half. Avery Brooks gets a chance to Avery Brooks as the short-lived murderous host Duran. The second half of the runtime, though, turns into one of Star Trek's wonderful explorations of gray areas, as the old man himself, Curzon, inhabits Odo. The problem is, neither want to demerge from the other, and we get a Tuvok sort of situation. Thankfully, the Cisco doesn't have to order anything ethically questionable, as Curzodo agrees to go back to the way they were before, though not before getting into some shenanigans and admitting that he was just a creepy old man that had a crush on Jadzia when she was an initiate. The B-plot sees Nog doing simulation training for Starfleet Academy entrance, and Rom standing up to Quark about his son doing what he wants to do. The episode did some nice furthering of Jadzia and Nog's characters, while giving the rest of the cast a chance to play around for an hour of television. Looking at the best of Cass at 272. Fountain of Youth. Or Before and After. Cass wakes up old and in an alternate Voyager future, where the Doctor has a hairpiece and a name. She keeps getting younger before anyone can actually help her, giving us a sneak peek at the upcoming year of hell, until she's just cells in her mother's womb, before miracles in time and space get a treatment the Doctor in the show's present created to bring her back into temporal sync. The plot is extremely easy to summarize, but is probably Kess's best episode, just a few ahead of being replaced in the series. Some fun what-ifs worth watching. Unleashing Badgie at 271, Deliverance. Or, worst case scenario, B'Elanna finds and recovers what she thinks is a holonovel about a Maquis takeover of the ship, and it quickly becomes a word-of-mouth favorite among the crew. After Tom finds out it has no ending, and even Janeway wanting to find out who created it, Tuvok of all people comes forward as the author. He created it for training purposes, and then deleted it when he thought it was no longer necessary. He and Tom agree to team up and finish the program when the ghost of Seska comes back to haunt them in the form of tampering with the parameters file in Tuvok's program. She pretty much just screws around with them for the entire second half of the episode, until Tuvok is able to outsmart Hollow Seska. This one is a ton of fun and gives Seska a chance to level up to her final form as a villain, even after death. Learning from your mistakes at 270. Misdirected Rage. Or Hope and Fear. In Voyager's Season 4 finale, we quietly close out the season on a standalone episode about a dude named Arturus with a grudge against Voyager. We're introduced to the game Velocity as Janeway and Seven again strengthen their character bonds, bookending this episode. Their passenger Arturus is able to seemingly finally recover some of the lost Starfleet transmission from earlier this season. But for someone that has a ship capable of traveling across tens of thousands of light years, he wastes it on a revenge plot against Voyager, because they sided with the Borg against Species 8472. He tries to deliver Janeway and Seven to the collective before being foiled at the last minute, and Voyager using the tech to get them another chunk of the way home. As a season finale, this is pretty bland, but there's some great dialogue, particularly with Kathy and Seven. Learning the meaning of non-violence at 269, Beaten by Pacifists, or Errand of Mercy. Kirk and co. are on a mission to establish relations with the seemingly pre-warp Organians, before the Klingons can annex this strategically important planet of pacifists. William Shatner does some of his best William Shatnering trying to convince these people that the Klingons will rule over them as a dictatorship. They seem unconcerned, and our good friend Kor proclaims himself governor of Organia, while Kirk and Spock pose as passing merchants to avoid capture. While the Cold War rages on this planet, the Federation and Klingon fleets are en route to each other, and the hot war is about to begin. There's some great back and forth between Kirk and Kor, and in the end the Organians reveal themselves to be beings of energy that were never truly there to begin with, and exert their godlike powers to prevent the Klingons and Federation from fighting anywhere in the galaxy for some indeterminate amount of time, before straight up disappearing. This episode is one of the best early interactions between the galaxy's two greatest frenemies. Still not done with fascist ideologies are numbers 267 and 268. Nazis. Again, or The Killing Game, Parts 1 and 2. For really no good reason at all, we're treated to a World War II epic on the holodeck, with the Hirogen having taken over Voyager off-screen and subjecting the crew to brutal simulations for the sake of their important hunt. Does a lot of it make any sense, and was Janeway's decision to give away Federation tech that 3 years prior she would have blown up the ship before giving away a good move? The answer to both these questions are no. However, getting there is more than half the fun of this one. Later folding in Klingons from an adjacent simulation are really working in the entire cast to some non-standard roles smack dab in the middle of Voyager's overall run. Actually works better than I'd think. There was a resurgence of World War II nostalgia in the 90s, with the rise of what was jokingly called the Hitler Channel, because the History Channel seemed to show more than 50% war documentaries at the time. Not sure if this is better or worse today. What I am sure of is that despite almost literally chewing the scenery at times, and a plot that amounts to at best nothing, and at worst a chance for the Holograms Be Free movement to spring up later in the show's run, this is a very enjoyable two-parter to grab some popcorn and not think too deeply about an hour and a half of television.
Computer. That program is available.
Thanks, Major. Thanks, Major.
Weapons lock broken.
Thanks, Major.
Intruder alert on deck 8. That information is classified.
Thanks, Major.
The hollow matrix has been formatted. Unable to comply.
Thanks, Major.
Self-destruct in 30 seconds. Self-destruct sequence has been terminated.
Thanks, Major.
Unable to comply. The holographic simulation has ended.
Thanks, Major.
Subspace communications are offline.
And now the conclusion.
Thanks, Major.
Full impact. Final round to Janeway. Winner, Janeway.
Thanks, Major.